Hello, this is Mr. Himottu. In this video, I'm going to talk about my calculus class and how it's going to operate in a day-to-day procedure. Basically, what each class is going to look like, how you're going to be working on material as homework on your own, and in general, what you can expect in this class. Now, some of you may know a little bit about calculus, and others may know very little. Some of you may know some of these symbols and terminology that you see, but in general, it's going to appear somewhat confusing and mysterious to you if you know nothing about calculus. Well, this course is going to clear up a lot of these misconceptions about calculus and show you that it really isn't that mysterious or that difficult. Now, if you're looking for a definition of calculus, you might consider this, that calculus is a branch of mathematics that helps us understand changes between values that are related by a function. Now, there's some key words here. Now, obviously, calculus is part of mathematics, okay? Now, some other key words here is changes, okay? So we're talking about changes between values that are related by a function, okay? So those are the key words in this definition, that calculus is a branch of mathematics that helps us understand changes between values that are related by a function. Now, how am I going to operate this class? Basically, I'm going to use something referred to as flipped mastery learning. Okay, so what in the world do we mean by flipped mastery learning? Well, if we look at each of these words here, flipped is typically from flipping the class, and this refers to a video lesson that in a normal face-to-face class environment would be the homework, if you will. So every lesson is going to be via a video, which you're going to watch. You can take notes, you can re-watch it, you can save it, you can back up and look at something again. But basically, that's going to be the lesson. That's going to take the place of what would normally be a classroom lecture. Now, what do we mean by mastery? Mastery basically means we don't move on until the particular topic, standard, or concept is mastered. And another way of looking at that is we allow retakes, okay? That it is not going to be a situation like where you fail a test, but you move on to the next chapter regardless, okay? You don't move on until you've mastered the particular topic, okay? Now, how are we going to handle that? Basically, there's going to be two types of assessments. Each topic, standard, or concept is, when you feel you're ready, is going to have a formative assessment. Okay, this formative assessment will be looked at and assessed, but it will not go into the grade book as a final grade, okay? And this will determine whether you have mastered a particular concept or not. Now, each chapter or each unit is going to have several concepts or standards. Once you have mastered all the particular standards for that unit, then there will be a summative assessment, or if you might think of it as a chapter test, okay? But, again, this can be retaken if you do poorly on it. And when you retake it, we get rid of the old grade, and it's whatever the new grade is, okay? So this involves basically that you learn and understand the material, but don't move on until you really understand it. Now, the last word here is learning, okay? And this is basically going to be self-paced. That means you work at your own pace. Some of you are going to be able to work quicker, others will require more time. Okay, now, although this is called self-paced, it is not totally at your discretion, okay? We will have some guidance. I will have some pacing where the expectation is you finish a particular unit in a certain amount of time. But in getting there, you can take and work at your own pace, okay? As I say, some people are going to learn things faster, while other people are going to require more time. Now, in addition, since this is self-paced, those that are going to learn things faster have the opportunity to get some enrichment and maybe delve a little deeper into the topic. But this is basically the model that we're going to use, flipped mastery learning. Now, as I said, we have certain units, and in each unit there's certain standards or concepts that need to be mastered. And these are just the first 5 units. These aren't all the units that are going to be discussed in calculus. We'll have units on integration and things like that. But as you can see, each of these units, the first being limits, then the derivative, more derivatives, curve sketching, implicit differentiation, has anywhere between 3 and 5 particular standards for that unit. So these particular topics, concepts, standards, however you want to describe them, must be mastered before you can complete the unit test and then move on to the next unit. Okay, here's what it's going to look like in terms of a flow diagram. All right, we're going to start off with this pre-work up here, okay? The pre-work is simply a video lesson. It's going to be most likely a video, almost all the videos are going to be videos that I create. There may possibly be some others, but almost all of them are going to be my own videos that I've created, okay? Now, when you watch the videos, you'll have the opportunity to take guided notes, okay? So there'll be some documents where you can follow along the video and take some notes as you're going along. As I say, when you're watching the video, feel free to stop it, go back, and then obviously it's going to be kept on my hilltop so you can go back to it at any time, especially when we have our unit tests. Okay? So once you've watched the video and you've taken some notes, then you move down here to this practice and learn. Okay? This is where you have a worksheet which has problems and applications, and you'll work on them. You will have the answers, but it is strongly suggested that you work on them yourself, then look at the answers and see if you understood them, all right? Now, if you move through this fairly quickly and easily, there will be some problems which I refer to as strive to do, okay? If you understand the material and you really got it nailed down, then I strongly suggest that you try these strive to do problems, okay? This is where you get enrichment, where you take and can really stretch yourself and learn some things beyond just the basics of the course. Now, you do not have to do these, okay? Some of you are going to take longer to take and complete this cycle, so in that case, you want to complete the basics, but you don't necessarily have to do these. However, if you're moving along fairly rapidly and you really understand the material, I strongly urge you to do these enrichment problems. All right. Now, once you've completed that, understanding that particular concept or standard, we go to the mastery check. Okay? Now, this is where I give you a formative assessment. Think of it as like a quiz, okay? And we see whether or not you have indeed mastered this topic, okay? Now, if you've mastered the topic, you move on. If I say you haven't mastered the topic, if you fail to demonstrate mastery, then we have some additional practice. You ask some questions, maybe I work with you one-on-one, and then we try the test again, try the formative assessment again. All right, once you've mastered that particular topic, you move on, all right? Now, then you learn the next concept or standard, and you do the loop all over again. Now, you obviously do this loop for each standard or topic or concept in the unit. Once you've mastered all those standards, then you go to take the summative exam or the chapter test, if you will, okay? Now, this is what goes in the grade book. Now, if you don't do well on this, you have the option to retake it, okay? And prior to retaking it, again, you would have some additional practice. I might work with you, we might go over the problems you did wrong, and then you would take and retake the test. Obviously, it's going to be a different test, but the same types of questions, just different, okay? So this is basically the workflow that you're going to proceed with on every unit, okay? All right, now, how are we going to do grading? As I said, the grade that goes in the grade book is going to be only from the summative exam or the chapter test, if you will. And I've broken this down into two forms here. And I have here this one column, which is the 4-point grading system, which is basically what a college uses. And I have the equivalent proficiency shown on the right here. Basically, we're looking for mastery. Mastery occurs right here, where you get a grade of 3 out of 4, okay? If the first try you have no errors on that particular standard or concept, you can get a 4 plus, okay? If it takes you to, and that's basically, think of this as a 5-question exam, all right? And if you get 4 out of 5, that's mastery. It's considered you're proficient, and you would get a 3. That 3 corresponds to basically a B grade, 83 to 86, okay? If you get all 5 of the 5 problems correct, that would correspond to a 4, and you would get a 95. Now, in order to get 100, basically you would have to do first try with no errors. Remember, as I said, you can retake these. So if first try you get 5 out of 5, then you get 100, okay? Now, let's say you don't get 4 out of 5. Say you only get 3 out of 5, all right? 3 out of 5 requires simpler content for mastery. In other words, you're developing your learning, and this corresponds to a 2 or a 75 on a traditional grading system. If you only get 2 out of 5 problems, you need help to achieve partial success. This is considered early development. This only corresponds to a 1 out of 4, which it would be a 65 or a D, okay? 1 out of 5, very limited success with only the easiest problems. You're only able to do the very easiest problems. This corresponds to a 0.5, which is like a 60 or D minus. And then lastly, if you get 0 out of 5, that's considered you have no evidence of mastery. That would correspond to a 0. Now the important thing to note here is this is an F, but it's not a 0 on the 100-point scale. It's a 55 on the 100-point scale. Why do I do that? Because mathematically, a 0 just does not make mathematical sense in terms of the 100-point scale. Okay? If you use the 0 as an F, that means you've got like 50 to 60, actually like 60 points that correspond to failure, whereas only 40 points correspond to passing. All right, so an F would be that you get no problems correct. That would correspond to a grade of 55 on the 100-point scale, which would be an F. So, in the end, what am I trying to achieve? As I said, I'm trying to achieve that you learn the topic. Not that you memorize facts, but that you learn it. Now, that means people are going to make mistakes. That's okay. That's the way we learn. In fact, I love this particular quote which says, every time you make a mistake, your brain grows. If you never made a mistake, you wouldn't really learn anything, okay? Our goal here is to learn something. Not memorize it, but to learn it. And basically, we're going to make mistakes. That's all right. We learn from our mistakes. Our brain grows, and we learn things.